All right, so up to now, we've been putting all of our files and our images and our CSS in a single folder, and everything's been working really beautifully. But here's the problem. As you've seen and we've been doing, we've created more and more HTML pages, and we've even created a couple of style sheets along the way, and we've certainly encountered lots of images. It's starting to get pretty cluttered. And so to get ourselves better organized, now I'm going to introduce this idea of organizing things within folders. And so let's see, I have this root folder. This is my project folder, and this is where I've been keeping all my files. Now I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to create a new folder, and you can call it whatever you want, but I'm going to call mine images, because intuitively you'll figure out, I bet that's where all the images are going to be stored. And then I'm also going to make a folder called CSS, and in there I would put all of my CSS files. So it makes sense. So I'm going to bring this image into my images, and in this case I only have one image, but if I had more, obviously I could organize them a little bit more cleanly by putting all the images in that particular folder. And then I'm also going to move my style sheet into the CSS folder. Super good idea. And so now what's happening is, I bet I broke my web page, so I'm going to just see. So I'm going to refresh my page, and sure enough, now that I've moved things into the folder, the browser says, I have no idea where to find a style.css. And the reason is because the browser says I am an index.html file. There's me, index.html. So I'm going to look relative to where I sit. So where I sit is in this folder. And in this folder, I can see an index.html. I can see a contact page. I can see a folder called images, and I can see a folder called CSS. None of those match this word style.css. Therefore, it blew up. I can't find it. I don't know what you're looking for. So we have to be specific and tell it where that folder is. And so just like us clicking on this drop down arrow or kind of drilling down into that folder, I have to click on that folder in order to see that style sheet. We have to do the same thing with our directions to the browser. And so in order to do that, I'm going to type in the name of the folder, which is CSS, and I'm going to put a /, which says look inside of that CSS folder and look for styles. Notice let me just save that. So Mr. Browser, you have to go find that thing called CSS, and then it's a folder, so look inside of that folder for something called CSS. So there's our separator. I can't just put style.css. That makes no sense. So we separate it with a / that says look inside the thing called CSS, and you'll find something called style CSS. And let's see if that's correct. So if I hit my refresh page, now my style sheet is showing up. So that's cool. My image is not, and that's for the same reason. So I'll do the same thing with my images. So I'm going to come down here to wherever my image is, image. And instead of looking for Kirsten.png in here, you're going to have to click into this folder. So I'm going to type the word images and put a / and then the name of the file. Now some of you who have command line experience might feel the need to put a / here to indicate the path. If you don't know what I'm talking about, ignore what I'm about to say, but don't put the / in front of the word images, because it won't work, and I will prove myself. So now if I do this, images isn't showing up, but if I take that away and just put the name of the folder, then everything is going to work out just fine. So this is us putting things into folders and getting a little bit more organized now. So I need to also make sure then that my link in the links stay the same, because we're not going into a folder to toggle between the link pages. So I don't need to change those, right? So if I'm in index, the browser says I'm in index, I can find something called contacts. So these can stay the same. So we're fine there. I don't know if I had anything on the contact page that had an image. I don't believe I did. Oh, my style sheet, right? So I have to tell the browser to go look in a folder called CSS / and then the name of the file. So now it'll be able to find that too. All right, so now I need to make the changes on my live site. I know that this is my local site, and I know that that's working, and I can toggle back and forth. Seems to be working. Sweet. But I need to now make the change to my live site, right? Because that has to reflect my changes with the images. So I made some folders. It's not showing up here. I'm going to hit the refresh button. up here, refresh the file and folder list, and now I can see those. All right, so now all I have to do is drag. Just for my own sanity, I'm going to delete these two files because they're no longer going to be in what we call the root folder. So I'm going to delete those just to keep things clean, because remember, we moved them into these folders. All right, so now I'm going to upload those folders. So I can just, you can either use different things. You can right click, choose upload. You can just drag them over. I'm just going to drag them over for visual because that's cooler, so I can see the plus sign. Those are coming over here. So now in my root folder, just like I had here, right, this dot dot is synonymous with your root folder. Okay, you're not going to, that is your root folder. You're not going to have any more project folders like we do in our local folder. So now I also made changes in my contact and HTML, so I'm going to drag those over also. Are you sure you want to overwrite those? Yes, I do. I meant to do that. Did you want to overwrite? Yes, I wanted to overwrite that also. And so now when I pull up, I'm going to go into my CIS 130. I'm going to bring something over here eventually. So now when I click on my name and I see everything looks the same, but what should look different is I'm going to right click on this image just out of curiosity, and I'm going to choose view image. And what you're seeing now is that is actually being rendered from that images folder. See how it has my username, and then it has the images folder that we created, and it has that file name. So that is how we can start organizing our code better, is by putting it into folders that have some meaning. So now all of my images can be in the images folder, and then as long as they're relative to the page that's being displayed, being rendered, the index page, as long as the folder is in the same root directory, in the same folder on my live server as those HTML pages, and I put the name of that folder with a / and the name of the file. In fact, if I double click on it, I can even see it. There you go. I can double click on the two dots to go back up again, and you can see that folder name is changing here too. So okay, so now we're getting a little bit more organized and less of a mess in our projects.